Hey, did you hear about Jalen and AJ? Did you hear that story? Let's talk Eagles gossip and Eagles lore coming up next on the PHLY Eagles show with Dan McQuade and Kelsey McKinney from Defector. Should be a fun one. Check it out. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles show on a beautiful Wednesday. A fun one coming up. Bo Wolf and Dan McQuade in studio. Kelsey McKinney joining us remotely. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us. This is, I believe, my best shot, probably as cool as my wife will ever think I am to have you on the show. So thank you for joining us.
I love to make people look cool to their wives, so it's a pleasure to be here.
And Dan, thank you so much. You've got the ELG SES hoodie,
I
or not
do.
hoodie, but
yeah,
sweatshirt that you're
crew neck
rocking.
sweatshirt. Yeah, I have a couple ELG SES pieces of gear.
Okay.
This one was absurdly expensive. It's by Boathouse, which is a Philly company. Yeah, I'm sure everyone can see this and me doing it. Which is a Philly company that makes like like if you played for Ursinus rugby in the 90s, your gear would be, I don't know if Ursinus had a rugby team in the 90s. But like your gear would probably be from Boathouse because they make very nice stuff. And it's right here in like Juniata, Kensington. And it's made in USA stuff. They've since trying to be more of a consumer-focused forward company, and they released an ELG SES shirt, and the letters are nicely sewn on, and their crew neck sweatshirts are really comfortable.
There you go.
Glad you.
What advertising for that?
Yeah, this is what you came here for. Discussions of Philadelphia businesses and the history of what you might wear as a rugby player in the 90s for your like warm-ups.
Sure, of course. So the conceit of the show today, a few things. First of all, Kelsey, you have this wonderful book that is out. You didn't hear this from me. I'm sure that you are in the middle of talking about the book. You got to sell the book. I don't know how talked out you are, but we will try to give it a bit of a sports spin and an Eagles spin. We also want to just get to like your Eagles fandom, because I know that Dan, of course, is like from the womb Eagles fan. You are a little bit later to it, and so there are some bits of Eagles lore, Dan, that I think you want to share with not just Kelsey but the larger Eagles audience.
Yeah, I would be happy to share some.
You've also got some Eagles you are
lore.
Mr. Eagles bootleg.
Yes,
and so you have brought some goodies for us to share as well, which we can get to.
I do have some Eagles t-shirts here that I will share. What I'd like to share with some people is maybe Eagles lore that they don't know either. I do a lot of searching of old newspapers, and I feel like I'm always finding stories, and it's like, wow, this is like a great moment in Philly fan history, or oh, this is a terrible moment in Philadelphia fan history. How has it been forgotten? Either way, here's a thing from the Inquirer in 1972. An angry gang of Eagles fans surrounded the owner's limousine on the Veterans Stadium parking lot after the Eagles stole a 6-6 tie with the Cardinals because Jim Bakken missed a short field goal. The ugly mob cursed Tose and his companion, Betsy Rubin. They rocked the limousine. Betsy cried. It was vivid proof for Tose of how pro football stirs the emotions in Philadelphia. I should have used a different exit, Tose said later. You guys caused it. The first newspaper accounts hadn't hit the streets when the mob swarmed around Tose's car, but he still blamed the attack on the writers. I like that in this note, it makes it seem like that the newspaper, it seems like Tose is alleging that the newspaper writers told people to surround his car.
Right.
and pound it. And then this like the defense, like the accounts hadn't hit the streets. So it seems like that the writers maybe did tell people to go bang his car. It was just afterwards. It was just after it actually
I like
happened.
the addition of Betsy cried because I'm like, could you see her through the window? Like, how do you know?
Betsy cried. The 2-word sentence is what struck me as well. I mean, what so evocative. And also, I mean, take a step. Can you imagine if Jeffrey Lurie was leaving, the link, and his limo was getting, banged on by a bunch of Eagles fans because they tied the Bills or whatever it is?
Like, I can't believe there was an incident involving the Eagles owner and a car, and it wasn't Norman Brayman who made his fortune in the used car business. It's like, yeah, right. Like, how were fans able to get into, it's that like parking lot under the stadium, I guess, is where the owner would have been. Now that I think about it, I waited for like autographs when I was a little kid for players there. So I guess you could just like get down there and someone recognized Leonard Tose. I have another Leonard Tose story.
So while you pull that up, Kelsey, why don't you tell us your journey to Eagles fandom and Philly sports fandom in general?
Sure, I would love to. I am from Texas originally, and I grew up not an NFL fan. Like, we were an NCAA family only. I only cared about college football, and so I had no NFL affiliations. And then I lived in DC briefly, and I was like, well, I'm not adopting this team,
Terrible.
obviously.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Philadelphia, where I intend to live the rest of my life until I die. And I learned that the Eagles have a song that you get to sing after they score touchdowns. And I was like, oh my God, it's just like college football. And so I immediately got locked in. And so I am a new fan, and I own that I do not have the credentials of a long-term fan, but I will one day.
Dan, we're open armed here.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
you
no
can become
guarding.
an Eagles fan. I mean, like, certainly it makes it like it's not all like last season, Kelsey. There are.
I've been here for 3 years.
The Eagles don't usually win the Super Bowl.
What a roller coaster!
Although,
those 3 years,
like, my wife is like 3 out of the last 7 years they've been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's insane.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. They are like good now. It's really weird to think of that as someone who was around, who. I mean, I didn't see the worst of the Eagles. That would be like in the 60s and early 70s. But, the Eagles were inferior to Washington, the Giants, and Dallas when I was a kid, right?
Sure.
Like, those teams won the Super Bowl 4 consecutive seasons. Those teams won the Super Bowl. And so I always thought it was like, oh, it's like the Eagles are just like behind these teams. And now, like, the Giants like basically kicked the Eagles' ass for 50 years. And the Eagles have been so good against them since 2000 that they now have like a winning record by like 6 or 7 games against the Giants.
And I don't think like there is nothing less scary to Eagles fans than every other team in the NFC East right now.
Yeah,
and
right.
Even though the Commanders went to the NFC Championship game, I feel like there's like an expected come down for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a good division to be in.
Yeah, it feels like they're in the NFC South now, or it's the South is the one that's always like terrible.
This Super Bowl has been weird a little bit. I think Les captured this very well in a column that's on allphly.com right now if you become a diehard, which is that, like, 2017, 2018, that was like, the exorcism, the first one ever. This one, like, you climb so much for it. And then, like, the NFL calendar just moves on so quickly that it's like we have not soaked it up quite as much. It feels like everything that they accomplished. One of the best teams of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the highlights many times since the Super Bowl, and gone back for Super Bowl 52 as well. You gotta mix it up.
You get a wallow.
I was watching the 2003 Phillies yearbook earlier today because I was discussing
because it was a Wednesday.
Because it was a Wednesday, yeah. And I was discussing the home run that Todd Pratt hit to beat the Red Sox. That the Phillies put out a piece of merchandise that was like a bottle opener that played Scott Graham's and John Kruk's call of Todd Pratt's home run.
Oh my God.
I don't know how that is a piece of merchandise, but I did buy the like Bic lighter Eagles Super Bowl champions 6 lighter set. So I guess like anything can be a piece of Eagles merchandise. Although I cannot buy, my address is banned from the Eagles Pro Shop from all fanatics.
Really?
Don't say your address on air.
I don't know if it's like because we've made fun of Michael Rubin, but every time I try to order something from the Eagles Pro Shop,
really,
it gets I get like a sorry, your order, and like I had my wife do it, and it was like sorry, your order cannot be processed. So it's really? My address. I think sometimes my address gets like blocked because it begins with 123. And so it seems like it's like 123 Fake Street, like you know, but it's not like it's a real address. So
it's a very specific complaint.
Yeah. So that's my very specific. That's actually the only reason I came on the show, so I could talk about how I was not able to buy the Eagles.
Since Zach is not here, I can say, Michael Rubin, I don't like you either. So just have that for the record.
Oh, if Zach met Michael Rubin,
3 of us.
There we go.
So excited.
I mean, Kelsey, for a 3-year arc, just thinking about it as like as jumping in, that's pretty good. You get like 2022 feeling like you've maybe joined a bandwagon, but then the heartbreak. Then you get, a true Philadelphia disaster, and then you get getting to be the underdog and coming out on top in this season. That's a pretty good arc.
Extremely cocky my first year here because we went into the fall and I was like, every team's going to win the championship my first year in Philadelphia because the Phillies were in the World Series. The Union was in the championship. It was like literally all the teams. And I was like, oh my God, good luck. I did it. And then in fact, I was not. So it's good to be reminded.
I think that's right. All right. What do you got for us?
My other Leonard Tose story is, he was going to move the team in the
I sort of want to know more about Betsy Rubin, but
I should have put her name in my old newspaper search.
Yeah.
In fact,
real socialite name.
So he was, going to move the team, and he was trying to be secretive about it, but the news broke somehow. I think he was going to move him to Phoenix, and I believe that the Phoenix reporter broke the story. And, people were talking about it, and these 2 guys, Rob Vendetti and Barry Martin, were leaving the Spectrum after a Sixers game, and were like, meh, let's go to his house and tell him not to move the team. So they went to his house on the main line. They, knocked a couple times. When I interviewed, I forget who it was, I interviewed both of them. And one of them was like, yeah, it was 11 p.m. We figured he was watching Action News. And they left him a note, and it says, Leonard, we were here to see you at 11 p.m., 12/12/84. We just wanted to talk about moving our team. Our is like underlined twice. Don't do it. You couldn't possibly sleep at night. Go Birds, Philadelphia Birds. And they
Philadelphia Birds
signed their name and said they were 22-year season ticket holders. And like the cops showed up, and like these 2 people were ready to go to jail just so they could tell the owner, like, do not move the team.
It feels like they were successful.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it worked. That's the first instance I can find of somebody writing "Go Birds."
Oh, really?
I'm sure people had said it before, but that's the first time I can find someone saying it.
And just so I have my chronology right, that was before or after the Betsy Rubin incident?
This was after the Betsy Rubin incident.
This is after. Okay. So Tose, listen, I'm not against the fan base going up against the billionaire owner, but it is very funny that he goes from he can't leave the stadium to now he can't even be in his own home.
Yes.
I don't know. You know what? This is a social contract that you're signing. If you're not holding up your end of the bargain, maybe you should know that that's on the table.
Or you should get like a fence. I'm not I'm not for,
offense.
yeah, like I'm not for, I don't, like I would never live in a neighborhood like with an HOA, but like if you're a super rich person who might get people to come to your house at 11 p.m. because you're going to do something that's going to piss a ton of people off, you should probably have some sort of gate or else, people are going to come to your house and
It's also funny because it's like unclear to me actually if the note is meant to be threatening or not. Like, yes, these people were willing to go to jail, but the note itself is so subdued. It's like, please do not move the team. We will be mad. XOXO Birds fans. And it's
Go
like
Birds,
that.
Philadelphia Birds.
It's like, what if he had answered? Like, it's equally possible that
Yeah.
they were going to kidnap him or that they were like, we've brought beers and need to talk.
I like that. Well, and it's also there. Yeah, there's some plausible deniability in the note itself. It's like we just
here
wanted
to
to have a
talk.
nice conversation with Leonard. They start with Leonard, so there's a familiarity there.
Yeah,
that they're banking on, which I like.
I have one more old
Okay.
news story that I pulled up. Looks like it's from 1975, and so the Eagles had an offensive lineman named a tackle named Ed George. And Ed George came from the CFL. Here's the thing I never noticed in this story before, because obviously I've read this story before, because you gotta look into your Eagles lore when you're me. So he was a great player in the CFL, and he won CFL Offensive Lineman of the Year, an award he had lobbied to have established.
Really?
Yeah. So
Hell
he
yeah.
lobbied to have to create an
Got him a
award
job.
that he then won.
Yeah.
So then he had a holdout with the Montreal Alouettes because the season went from 14 to 16 games and he wanted more money.
Okay.
And I guess they said no. So he was waived and then went to the Eagles, of course. And the rules in the CFL were different, maybe at the time or now. I mean, they are different. There's a 55-yard line, and you have to get the ball out of the end zone, or else you lose, or else the other team gets a point. It's but the rules for holding were different. So this guy Ed George was nicknamed Holding Number 64.
I mean, one of the great nicknames of all time.
which is amazing. And so Dick Vermeil said he was going to petition the league to have them stop announcing the numbers of who a player was on, because it was
hurting poor Ed's
it was
feelings.
hurting his feelings.
Yeah.
This is literally what he said. If they announced to 60,000 fans that you wrote a lousy story and they booed your ass, he told one writer, you wouldn't like it. Vermeil added that George, quote, has played some great football and been called for holding a lot and called when he was not, but it has got to affect you when they boo you. Little did Dick Vermeil know that the internet would allow 60,000 people to tell you that the story you wrote was terrible.
And they will.
So yeah. And they will and do.
Well, actually, I want to ask you about that, Kelsey, because that is an interesting sports tie-in with the book. Is just the nature of commentary these days. You can call it gossip, where it's not just celebrities who can see the gossip that is being said about them. It is us on a show, or it is every person on social media. How do you think that has changed the relationship to gossip? And just our living lives.
For everyone or for athletes or both?
Well, let's start with everyone, and then we can get into what that is like for an athlete.
Sure. I think people are really aware of the surveillance state that exists around us now. You can see people at dinner sometimes be getting really rowdy and then realize that they're in public and be like, oh, actually, we should lower our voices, because it's well, anyone around you could point their phone at you at any time and then upload that to TikTok, and then you would be very embarrassed. And so I think people are doing a lot more self-censoring, for better and for worse, in public based off of that. For athletes, it's a little more interesting, because the athletes themselves, I think, I have talked about this a lot actually on the tour, that athletes don't really use social media the way that other celebrities do. Like a few of them do, but for the most part, they're posting things that the team provides them, right? It's like, here are your cute photos of you in your outfit, put them on Instagram. And the players are like, great, here's me in my uniform. But the players' wives are posting all the time. So it's like, there are ways in.
Yeah, it makes me think of Brandon Graham's story, which is, early in his career, everybody's calling him a bust. He's being compared to the players the Eagles could have taken. And he's like having a real hard time on social media sifting through all this stuff. And so he starts blocking everybody. And it eventually leads to like the great unblocking that comes after they win the Super Bowl. But like for him, that was too much to deal with. And he didn't really become, who he was as a player until he was able to sort of tune that stuff out. And I think like for a lot of young athletes, that is a real difficulty.
Certainly. I mean, you can look at anyone's Instagram comments and they're a mess. Like if I
Yes.
were a young athlete, I would probably try to pay someone to do it for me because consuming that amount of vitriol is probably not good for you. Even if the team wins, people are like, why did you drop that pass? My fantasy team is suffering.
Right.
And it's like, sir, you don't know this man. Please stop commenting on his Instagram.
We're probably not conditioned to hear all the gossip about us.
Certainly not. I mean, we're like, as people, we're able to retain like 150 close friendships. Like, that is it. It's like 150 people you're capable of knowing their name and things about them. And so it's like, if you are using your slots for athletes and celebrities, that doesn't mean they're using their slots for you, which is a big problem.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll get back with more, and then I want to see some of these bootleg tees that you brought down just on the other side. There's another line in that story about Mr. Tose, one of the people shaking his car. This weird guy named Ray, kind of shady. Not the Shady Ray that we're talking about. This is about our friends at Shady Rays, where they are the best independent sunglasses company, offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their sunglasses have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. If you're a skier or snowboarder, Shady Rays has a brand new collection of snow goggles to help you see clearly and look good on the slopes. Plus, best thing about Shady Rays, there's no downside, because if you lose them, if you break them, if you don't like them, you can return them and get a pair that you do like. Exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. PHLY viewers and listeners, go to shadyrays.com and save 35% off polarized sunglasses with code PHLY. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars, so use code PHLY today at shadyrays.com. And then I'll tell you about our friends at Rothman Orthopedics. If your joints are aching, your hands are cramping, or your back is out of whack, Rothman has got your back. Each Rothman doc is laser focused on their specialty: hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have a team for each body part right in your backyard, so you can cross over the defense, drain those jump shots, and root for your teams like no other fans in the country. Since 1970, their physicians have remained committed to research, innovation, and minimally invasive procedures to get you back to what you specialize in year over year. Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, and shoulder replacements in the country, over 60,000. For more than 50 years, Rothman has participated in thousands of groundbreaking research and clinical trials with the goal of advancing knowledge, developing treatments, and improving outcomes for the benefit of our patients. Rothman Orthopedics, specialized in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make your appointment today. All right, Dan, what goodies have you brought for us?
So, one thing that I think that everyone knows, everyone has seen, is the Calvin peeing shirt. This one is him peeing on the Cowboys logo and the word Cowboys.
Okay.
In case you need it to know.
Devilish grin, as
what
always.
Logo that was. So one thing that's interesting when you collect 200 bootleg Eagles shirts is you learn that the Calvin peeing shirt may not be the original. So this shirt.
Oh, interesting.
So the Calvin is. The Calvin peeing shirt is generally dated to the mid-90s Florida State, I believe, used it for something, and then in NASCAR, it
Was it not ripped from an actual comic?
Calvin peeing. So it is ripped from an actual comic, but just the face. The little peeing
Oh.
There's no strip where he's actually doing that.
No, but there's a strip with that face where he's sort of like looking over his back. People have discovered it's like from '89, I believe the strip is. But this shirt, this like style of like artwork looks like 70s, right? Like way earlier than Calvin peeing. Generally, Calvin peeing, I said Florida State, NASCAR, like putting it on like
Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's peeing on the number 3 or whatever. Then I have this one that is, it's like a long sleeve tee.
Ooh.
And
we got a censored team name on here too.
For the last game at Veterans Stadium.
Okay.
And as you can, maybe you can, I don't know if you can zoom in. This face is like, I have no idea what this face is. It's really weird. It looks like an adult man.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, and like that he's wearing a helmet, but nothing.
It looks almost like the.
It kind of.
Go ahead, Kelsey.
Oh, I was going to say, it kind of looks to me like when they give a crescent moon a face.
Yes. Yes. I was going to say it's sort of like the profile of like a Roman sculpture, but I like the crescent moon better.
Also like the moon.
Would you say, I mean, we're 3 in. I feel like you're already in the lead for like the world's largest collection of Eagles peeing on stuff t-shirts?
Yes. So I actually I have a lot more.
Just in the peeing genre.
Yeah, because sometimes it's a cartoon character and it's not.
That's a
Stewie
here.
You get Stewie peeing. If you look closely on the jersey, it's DeMarco Murray.
So this is recent.
Yeah. So this would have been right after Murray signed.
Now that is one where if the artist could do it again, you would want him peeing on himself.
Yes. Yeah. The DeMarco Murray signing did not work out.
No.
One thing I've learned collecting t-shirts is a thing that I forgot that this is like, there are Dallas sucks, and then there are, offensive things that follow that. This shirt is offensive in a different way, but I can show it. So if you remember so Dallas sucks. He had like an accidental overdose during the week.
Yikes.
And so and it was the week they were playing the Eagles, and
people were very measured about that.
Yeah, like if you look at like photos from that game, the fans have signs that are like the worst things I've ever seen Philadelphia fans say, besides like outward racism. It is like, oh God. Do not look up those.
It doesn't surprise me.
Those shirts. Yeah, right. It doesn't surprise me. But do not look up those shirts if you want to feel good about Philadelphia sports fans.
What is Dan your relationship to like the shirts in your collection? How often are you wearing them?
How often am I wearing them? Well, so for a while, maybe not always, but there are some that were in my regular rotation. And then it became like a bit owning Eagles bootleg shirts. Right. I held an art exhibition of them in January 2024.
Right over here, actually.
Right, yeah, down the north of here. North of here. I'm trying to figure out since Zach can't figure out.
That's right, exactly. Yes.
Where the directions
that is north
are.
Though. You got it.
Yeah. See, it is possible. Now like almost none of them are in my regular because I'm like, I got it. Now it's like a collection.
Well, maybe Kelsey needs some.
And I have some. I have some duplicates. We can.
Since I've moved here, I've converted to Dan's method of only buying bootleg gear for the most part, which is also because I found all the Super Bowl gear that was official to be very ugly.
Yeah.
I don't like the color gray and I don't want to wear it. So I'm quickly establishing my own collection of bad bootleg shirts, which I will wear into the ground.
I like that very much.
Yeah, I did not bring it, but I have a shirt that spells Saquon Barkley's name wrong. it's SAQ, it's SAQ UAN.
Okay.
It has
Perfect.
2 A's.
Beautiful.
Well, funny you mention that. I believe we actually have a shirt that spells Saquon's name wrong available on the PHLY Eagles store. Saquon with a W. So, you know, if you are so moved and you don't want to support Michael Rubin, there's another opportunity for you.
It goes well with, I have a shirt that spells it JAYLEN Hertz.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's authentic.
Here's one I just want to show if I am just showing. This is one from Super Bowl 15. The Eagles lost, and it calls it the Super Bowl game.
Nice.
I guess people weren't really.
Wow.
They didn't.
Was this they were afraid of litigation?
Get it? Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know because it uses like Raiders and it says Raiders world champions. So yeah.
I was there in a different font and color at the top of that shirt. That seems good to me.
So yeah, there's
Kelsey, where do you land on Kelly Green versus Midnight Green?
Thank you for asking. I look good in all colors of green, so I respect and love them all.
There you go. Maybe that's Jeffrey's point of view as well. Go ahead.
One thing, like there are like maybe 7 different shades of Kelly Green that you will see, like official Eagles merch in. Like I was at Kohl's, and just at Kohl's, just like a regular,
just casually browsing around.
No Wanamaker's from my house. It's no Wanamaker's, but or even Clover. But I counted. There were like, oh yeah, these are like 7 different shades of green on this Eagles merch, and that's fine. No one's going to notice unless you're next to someone else, which I guess you might be at a game. So
sure.
The problem is also, though, if your greens, like I got a satin starter jacket, like a vintage one off eBay in Eagles Kelly Green for Christmas, and it does not match my hat. And I'm like, this is upsetting to me because if these were the same color green, they would look very good together. And instead I must choose, which is, my struggle is real.
But then you get to alternate. Then you've got like 2 outfits. And
I need more hats. It's infinite.
How is book tour going for you, Kelsey? Are you exhausted?
Good, I'm done.
Oh, nice.
I did my last stop last week, so I'm happy to be home. I've returned to all of my normal haunts, and that is good for me because I was tired of being on the road. I don't really like to be on the road. I like to be at home.
I would imagine so. How about the conversations about the book? What is a question that I should not ask you because you've been asked it like 10 different times?
Ooh, I feel like the question I've been asked the most is actually the question that you should ask me, which is, do you have any gossip for me? Because I do have an Eagles specific gossip for you, if you would like to have it.
Absolutely, please.
I told this on stage at the Phillies show, so I apologize to anyone who has already heard this, but I went to the parade, right? Not the parade, to Broad Street. Eagles won the Super Bowl. Okay. It's Sunday night. I've been at the bar for 8 hours because I tried to go to my local bar at 3 or at noon, and it was packed. And so I had to go somewhere else. I've been at the bar forever. I'm like, great, time to go to Broad Street. So much fun. I go out. The next day I have to go to New York because my book is coming out. So I have to get on a train at like 10 a.m.
Wait, was it the actual book release the next?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was like Super Bowl Sunday, the day before the book, my book came out. And then I did New York, Boston, DC, and then Friday was the parade. So it was like, I was basically dead at the end of the week. But Monday morning I was like, okay, I have to go to the train. And I need to take a car because I am hungover. So I get into the Uber and my Uber driver is on speakerphone. He's on speakerphone talking really rapidly in Spanish. And I have taken Spanish lessons for like 4 years, and I have like a mediocre ability to understand Spanish. So I'm just sitting in the back of my car, eavesdropping on this man having this conversation. And I hear him explain that he, also went to Broad Street last night. And who does he see there but his ex-girlfriend on the shoulders of his best friend? And I, in the back seat, go, which immediately blew my cover. And then he was like, "Oh, do you speak Spanish?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was
Un
like, "Do
poquito.
you want me to get off the phone?" And I was like, "No." I like actually have some questions like, why did you break up with her? And then he told me that he broke up with her because she broke up with him because he told her she was pretty enough to go on Love Island. And then she was like, "You're right. I am pretty enough to go on Love Island." And then she broke up with him. So,
Wow.
even on Broad Street on Super Bowl Sunday, chaos.
Oh no. What famous you think you're lobbing out a compliment and it's the end
I
of the
know.
relationship.
I'm like, it's such a good compliment too, right? If somebody told that to me, I would be
Oh,
like, "Oh my God, thank you."
you know what? You're right. See you later. Oh, that's brutal.
I know.
This is not quite gossip, but my one bit of Eagles relationship here is I was put on to normal gossip by our mutual friend Kaylin, who
Mhm. Oh,
informed me
we love Kaylin.
when she was this was in 2022. I think she was working on the Tush Push story for the Athletic. That
Mhm.
that somebody in the Eagles front office who she talks to was a normal gossip listener. So you are reaching well back then at least were reaching inside the Novacare complex.
Dan and I went to dinner with Kaylin when she was in town working on that story, and she showed me videos on her phone of like the ball being moved forward at the starting
Oh
line, and
yes,
I was
she
just
was
like
all over it.
gasping inside a restaurant. Like I was like, "This is incredible. I love art."
Yes, and she's getting like Kelsey Jason Kelsey admits
Yes,
to it. He's like, but like
but don't
on the
tell.
down
Yeah.
low, please.
It's
I
so
was thinking
good.
about this today. I think that Kaylin and you, Dan, are similar to me in that you both have very specific lanes where if I see a headline, I know it is one of your stories, and like and Kaylin is beautiful that way in covering the NFL, where she is doing stuff that like nobody else is doing, and it's like that is a perfect Kaylin story. Wanamaker's is a perfect Dan McQuade story. It's like you guys both have awesome lanes.
I did. If you go to defector.com, you can read my story about spending the last day at Wanamaker's as Macy's. What was
It's a great
whatever
story.
Wanamaker's,
It's a great story.
and my son using empty clothes racks as like a maze, basically, and it was really I got sobby at the end of the story. It was like
Mhm.
making one last great
Sure.
memory there. I proposed
Your
in the
mom as
center
well, yeah.
court of the Wanamaker building because of the movie Mannequin. You can read more about that. Like I've probably written about Mannequin 6 or 7
I'm like, yeah, I'm
times.
a little disappointed you didn't buy a mannequin.
I know. There were only like a couple left, and like some of them didn't have full bodies. Like
Mm.
there were a bunch of mannequins for sale that just had like one leg. It was just
I
like
don't think
one
you should
leg, and
have a
then you would have to
mannequin in
like
your house.
insert. There was like you would have to purchase.
Mm-mm.
I assume when these go up, or they're just mannequins with one leg. But like there was another leg, I guess, that you would have to
Yeah.
like push up into the.
No, mannequins are too scary. You can't have that in your house. You're just gonna like see the shadow of a full person and panic all the time.
But what about just the disembodied leg? Maybe you turn that into
Oh,
some
that could
artwork or
be.
something.
Ooh. Yeah, maybe just the leg.
Yeah, maybe just the leg. All right, one more break to take to hear from our sponsors, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about You Didn't Hear This From Me, which is available anywhere books are sold. Whatever the moment at Bet365, it's never ordinary. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, and they live stream over 780,000 events each year with early payout offers across the NBA and NHL. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and today they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get that $150 in bonus bets. Again, win or lose. You got Slam Dunk Saturdays coming up where you place a qualifying parlay bet for $20 or more on those days NBA games, and you get up to $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. And if you open a new account now, you get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And I'll tell you about our friends at Timeline. Timeline sells health and longevity supplements featuring their proprietary MitoPure ingredients. Somewhere, wherever he is in the world, Zach Berman is floating on air because he's got that timeline in him. MitoPure works with the cells in your body to help reverse age-related decline. Benefits include increased strength, energy, and endurance. They have done 15 plus years of research and secured over 30 U.S. patents for their products. And I mean, you want to live long, right? Use Timeline. Right now, Timeline is giving you 10% off your order of MitoPure. Go to timeline.com/PHLY today to get started. That's timeline.com/PHLY. Codes are market specific, so there you go. PHLY. That's all you need to know. Boom. Sometimes they put in the copy directions, but it's supposed to be this is in the read to verbatim. I mean, we got to separate that. Come on. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the use of gossip in covering a team, right? Or following a team, rather. And I think the Eagles are a good example of this. I mean, the Eagles always have something going on. Even when they're winning, there is gossip. Dan, let's start with you. How much does the following all the little whisper campaigns about what's going on in the Novacare complex help or add to your experience as a fan?
I think it depends on what the gossip is. Okay. I guess. I mean, that's sidestepping the question answer. But no, I mean, it's interesting that this year I feel like there was a lot of Eagles gossip. In a year where they went 14-3.
Right. So Brandon Graham is going on TV and saying, well, Jalen and AJ don't really get along right now. They used to be friends. I mean, that's pretty gossipy.
Yeah, no. And that was a kind of a fun story. And they were 6-2 at the time or something.
I think that was on the heels of the Panthers game when AJ had called out the passing game. So they were pretty good. I think this season starting 2-2 and the memory of the collapse the previous season made everybody still nervous, even as they continued to win game after game and started to look really good. And so I mean, didn't somebody hire a plane to fly her a banner being F the media, we stand with AJ Brown or whatever. And it was very, and then people, there was some stuff that sort of, the Jalen stuff when he was throwing for 110 yards a game or whatever. I understood there being gossip about the passing game there. I think that, the gossip is fun when the Eagles continue to win. Another AJ Brown example, when we learned about all the books he reads. Yeah.
That was a game where that was a point of the season where the Eagles kept winning. And so I think that as long as the Eagles are good, the gossip is fun. When the Eagles are bad, the gossip maybe is more fun because then it's something to at least
who's going to get
pay
fired.
attention to as you as the team struggles in the season.
Kelsey, in reading the Britney Spears chapter in the book, I was struck by just thinking back to when she shaves her head, which you write about with real compassion. It reminded me of Nick Sirianni shaving his head before the game before the bye, where it's is this guy okay?
There's really been I feel like I love that Dan's talking about here's the gossip that's happening on the field, because all the group chats I'm in about Philadelphia sports are about who's maybe broken up with their girlfriend. Is Jalen Hurts wearing a wedding ring secretly in off hours? Who's shaving their head, right? It's not about the game at all. It's like, well, whose birthday is coming up? Could that have an impact on the game? Right? It's these kind of questions. And between
Secret
Nick
family,
Sirianni and Nick Castellanos shaving their head in the last like 6 months, my phone has never been more alive because people were in hot debate for both of them. Like people who hated the head shave and people who liked it. And I'm like, you know what? I think that's beautiful. And I think that's part of the fun of being a fan is that it's like, well, we don't know this man. Our opinion on his hairstyle does not matter. And yet, could it be a sign of emotional unrest? Could it be hot? We have to ask the important questions.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. Yeah. If it's going to affect him, that's going to affect my life.
Yeah.
How he's playing.
It's important.
Absolutely.
I mean, as much as like it feels silly to be like, who's having a fight with their girlfriend? I'm always like, if I could get the girlfriends of the opposite team to pick fights with their players the night before the game, I would, because that's good for me. Right. So it's like, it is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, honestly, we do lose sight of this, I think, just sometimes on this show where it's like, okay, let's talk about this guy's like yards per route run, just the statistics in the grand scheme of things. But these are human beings with things going on in their lives. Sometimes a bad game could be the result of something they've got going on off the field.
Yeah, or a good game, right? Like
that's true.
The
and then you got to chase that. Do whatever you've been doing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to ride this to the grave, but I made a lot of money on the Super Bowl because I knew that Cooper DeJean was going to get an interception. I was convinced of it for 2 weeks before he did it because I was like, well, he's been posting a lot of photos where he looks really happy. He rode on the Zamboni at the Flyers game, which I feel like would give him good vibes. And it's his birthday. So I was like, it makes perfect sense to me that he'll get the first interception of his career, which is vibes only.
Have you seen this this poster for the Christian event that they're having in Philadelphia where Cooper DeJean and Nick Sirianni are going to be speakers?
I have seen the poster for the Christian
Are we worried
event.
about this?
It appears
to
be
seen that.
like prosperity gospel stuff because it's like Christian how to make your business better.
Well, it's like Kaylee McKinney is talking.
I spent a good, I don't know, 2 minutes on the website to start thinking about it. But yeah, maybe I don't want the gossip when it's like, oh, these guys are going to be, not that this event is that, but, like I don't want the gossip when it's like, oh, the star of your team is going to be speaking at the We Hate Children conference. I would rather not hear that.
I feel like
maybe I would.
I feel like the Phillies
Philadelphia Phillies do not tell me what you think. Keep your mouths shut.
Yes. I think the Phillies are probably a good example of that, given the makeup of that team. Another sports tie-in from one of your chapters that jumped out to me, Kelsey, is the chapter on anonymity. And just by the way, I haven't really even done this. Just the book itself it's a great collection of essays about different types of gossip. You should obviously go out and get it. Give it the PHLY bump. But how when something is anonymous, it is more attractive than if we know who's saying it. And I think about this from the lens of NFL draft rumors, which we hear. It's like, oh, well, an anonymous scout says that Shedeur Sanders doesn't know how to cook any food. That's a red flag, which is interesting. But if it was like, oh, the West Coast scout for the Browns says that Shedeur Sanders this and that, nobody cares. But because it's like, oh, they're whispering about this behind the scenes, it absolutely gives it more gravitas.
This isn't exactly the same, but there's a study that shows that it is more distracting for us to have someone near us talking on the phone than to hear two people talking to each other. Because when one person is talking on the phone, your brain is trying to create the other side of the conversation.
Absolutely.
You want to know so badly what they're saying that you just can't focus at all. And I think that's kind of similar to what you're saying here, where it's if we don't know where the information comes from, it is more attracted to us because we're more attractive to us because we're like, well, where could it have come from? Right? Who could have planted this rumor that he can't cook? And is it true? Right? Is it his enemy? Because when it's anonymous, it could come from the air. It could truly be a lie. You never know, which is a very fun and messy part of sports reporting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I thought you had something. So I have a normal gossip question for you. Now I did, I was going to I wanted to ask my wife, so, hey, just so I can pass along to Kelsey, what are your favorite? And I didn't even finish the sentence. She's like, grandma's best friend Dot. Like just she throws it
Wow.
out.
Beautiful choice.
So I will give you her top 3: Grandma's Best Friend Dot, Till Deb Do Us Part, and Ready to Be Bunkified. I think
Wow.
very good
Those
choices.
are really good choices.
She will appreciate you saying that. But from a creative standpoint, how difficult was it for you to choose to step away from this thing that you built that created this amazing following?
You know, it was hard in some ways because I loved doing it. It's so fun to do that job. Like you are just taking gossip all the time into your body like a fire hose to the face, which is like exhausting but very fun because you're like, I know everything about everyone in the world, right? Like there's very few things you could tell me anymore that would surprise me because I'm like, well, I've read the inbox, so I know what people are doing, and it's terrifying. And most of the things that people would be like, you've never had anyone send this in before. I'm like, I have like 5 of these. Like this is happening to more people than you could possibly imagine. And I really loved the job, but I also wrote every script, and the scripts for the episodes were 4,000 words long, and there's 20 episodes a year. And so I was tired and I never wanted to make a version of the show that I thought was mediocre. Like I have really high standards for myself. And so I'm excited to be done with it and to not be writing as much all the time. I'm like going to go to so many Phillies games this summer and eat so many hot dogs. And my plans are mostly to relax, which I love.
But what about why then allow it to continue on? And it's like this legacy continues as opposed to just stopping.
Yeah, that's a good question. Rachel Hampton is taking over hosting the show for me, and Sierra Spragley Ricks is taking over producing for Alex. They are brilliant and very good. And I don't know that I would have intended to hand it over if I hadn't seen how good Rachel was at it. Like she came to some of our meetings after we hired her full time, and I was like, wait a second. She's like as good as me at this. And I've done it for 3 years and she's never done it before. So I think that it's like, it was just kind of a match made in heaven where I'm like, if she can do it,
that's great.
She should do it because it's such a fun show.
That's great.
I'm excited to listen to it.
What is like the inside Defector, like opinion of the like magnitude of this thing that grew?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I'm glad that Kelsey passed it on because it's the most successful thing that we've done, and so it's good for this worker.
Listen, we're not throwing our nose at views and listens.
Yeah. You know, like if Kelsey had been like normal gossip, I'm done with it, and I'm taking it. Like no one else will do it. I mean, that would be bad for Defector financially. I'm not saying we can't survive without
everybody should subscribe.
Normal gossip, but you know, it has been our it has been important to
those are broad shoulders for you to carry.
And you know, I mean, that's like a weird thing to say, but we're pretty open about our finances. I mean, we publish an annual report telling you how we made all our money.
It's also a different audience, which is really valuable to us as a website, because it's like we want the normal gossip audience is mostly young women. And so it's like, if I can convince you to come over here and read some blogs, that's going to be great for us.
Sure.
And like, that is kind of a fun thing to keep as a company to make sure that they stay with us for a little while longer.
These are important notes for us to take, Julia. Let's, Zach wants to bring this in as much as possible. How are you feeling about the Phillies, Kelsey?
Well, the thing is, I'm not feeling great because we made no moves in the offseason. And the only move that I've been told about is that they sent resident hottie Garrett Stubbs down to AAA, which I hate because I view him as a vibe captain. And as a vibes-based sports believer, I'm concerned about this for us. So maybe it'll be the change we need, but also maybe they'll be boring this year. It's unclear to me.
Maybe Rafael Marchand will be the one to bring like the Rubin version instead.
You know what? I'd love to see it.
That will be better. How are you? Do you care about the Phillies as much, Dan?
I do. Okay. Yeah. I mean, not as much as the Eagles, but I care about the Phillies, you know. I think they're going to be pretty good again. I mean, they were like the best team in the league for the first half of last season. And I think that the starting pitching could be really, really good. And I think that'll offset maybe the hitting getting older. But I don't know. I think the Phillies are likely going to make the playoffs, and hopefully it'll go a little better than it did last year.
It's funny because it's like hard to say because you're like, oh, the team is so similar, but it's like they could have won the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like it was a great team at certain times. It's about like them being hot in October, which I don't know how you convince them to do that.
That's the tough thing about baseball. It's so difficult. How about from an Eagles standpoint, Dan? Does having won a second Super Bowl in 7 years, does that affect like the life or death stakes of every Eagles Sunday for you? You think it will be different this year?
No, it still affects the life or death stakes of. I mean, I don't think I can change the way that I watch Eagles games, where I'm convinced, it's 40-6 in the Super Bowl with 3 minutes left, and I'm convinced that they might figure out some way to lose this game. You would think that like earlier in the game, after Cooper did to Gene's pick, and I'm like,
which
this
Kelsey
is
knew
going
was
to be
coming.
a blowout. This is incredible. Despite saying that earlier in the game, I'm still ready for everything to fall apart at any moment, and I don't think that will ever change while watching an NFL game.
All right, I like that. All right, my last question for you, Kelsey, is it feels like you are like the word gossip and Kelsey McKinney, right? Like you have become the owner of this word. And it occurred to me in the reading the story about your evangelical upbringing. You're talking about like the thorn, right? And you tell a nice story of a friend of yours from high school being like, I can't believe like you were the high school gossip and this has become your career. And you talk about like you still believe in some of you somewhere, like the predestination of it, that you had this thorn. What is it like that you like this is your thing? This was your thing as a kid.
Yeah.
This has become your thing.
It's kind of like to all the haters and losers situation where I'm like, oh, you guys said that this was evil. And now half of those people are like texting me to be like, I love the show. It's so good. And I'm like, well, look who it is. If it wasn't the girl who was going to pray for me in high school, welcome. So I feel pretty good about it. It's also, I think, in my best read of what people wanted and thought about gossip inside the community I grew up in, it was that they didn't want you to be mean to other people. And that is something that we like held as a really high standard for ourselves on the show, is that like we wanted to punch up and we wanted everyone to be equally bad. And so like that, the stories we chose were ones that we thought did that, where it was like really hard to choose a villain at the end of them.
I like that. Well said.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, I like I like the choice artistically to go lowercase.
Thank you.
It's a little,
it's a little whisper,
a
little casual.
That's great. Absolutely. All right. Anything else from you, Dan, before we get going here?
My favorite normal gossip episode is Marathon Finisher.
Is it?
What is that?
It's the one where the woman eventually
Josh
sends
Gondelman.
an email.
Oh, I do.
As a marathon finisher.
Yes, that's right.
That's something. And a marathon finisher. And it's like, oh,
that's
man,
right.
That's such a thing people do.
Mine was the, I forget what the boy band was, but the two groups of friends.
Oh, the Flat Margaret one.
Yes. And then the reveal at the end is what, I mean, that's a great kicker.
Wow. Deep cuts. I love it.
Yeah, why not? All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Dan.
Hey,
thanks for having us.
Having me. Having us.
Of course.
Thank you for having me, Kelsey.
Thank you for having only me.
You can buy, you didn't hear it from me, anywhere books are sold. Is there a place that you want people to buy it, Kelsey? Should we send some people somewhere?
Go to your local bookstore, whichever one's closest to your house is the one I support.
That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thank you to Julia for making it happen. We will be back tomorrow at 2:00 as always. And for all of us here, we thank you for watching and listening. As always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.